But one thing I forgot to say is that I'm sitting next to the person who passed Curtis off to me. Not in a bad way, but he was there and he was able to bring the school to a level 1 school. But the school is so high churn in leadership. He went on to do bigger and better things. The staff went on to work at other schools, and the kids changed. And so because of all of this churn and all of this change, under my tenure, we are no longer a level 1 school. Now, are we moving to be a level 1 school? Yes.
The transition and entry planning wasn't there. So there was a lot of systems that were built, that I built, community partnerships, training, support, that was there, but there was no way for me to transfer that knowledge. Yeah, and thankfully we have been able to talk, and now you understand. But I think that that's a piece around, especially for chiefs, specific structures and systems that can be put in place. What we really discovered is that high-churn principals or high-churn schools are not really regarded as a training ground for principals. We find that most principals are trained in very stable schools. And when they get to a high-churn school or a high-need school, they really struggle because of the skills they've built over the last couple of years. They're like, wait, I'm not doing that. I need to do something else. And I think I'm a great example of that. So I know that is really important. I also feel like there's a piece that's underneath that is that most principal supervisors were never principals at high-churn schools. And I think some of them may lack the background knowledge on the nuances that are really, really important, the levers that are needed to really support the principal in developing systems and structures for improvement. And I think, Peggy, you did a great job of talking about teacher training, and that really is important. We do not send our teachers to high-churn schools. We don't send them to high-need schools. And they lack a lot of teachers lack the skills and training to really be successful, and it fuels the pipeline of churn.
The aspect of fit is hugely important. I remember in a UIC cohort discussion where we were talking about and everybody's applying for jobs. And obviously at the end of a residency, you want to be able to work. But the reality is that this work in a high-churn school is not necessarily work. It's a calling, right? You have to be called to do this work. It taps into your innovation. It taps into skill and savvy at some soft skills that you may not have been adequately prepared for. And so literally flying the plane while you're building it is what we equate a lot of that leadership challenge to. So the fit is incredibly important, and I think that from a district-wide perspective, we have to be very honest with candidates in terms of what the data reveals about the school environments that they are looking to lead and how their skill set matches up, and their willingness then to be coached into what the expectations are. Because again, as mentioned, some of this is not just about the skill, but it is the will to do this work. It is a social justice issue.
The other branch of this data was how effectively was UIC program recruiting, developing, and supporting successful high-churn leaders. High-churn schools, as you probably can see, are the most challenging urban school settings. African-American principals are more likely to be recruited in these schools, and if high-churn principals are to be supported, and if it's difficult to finish a doc program because of the taxing emotional and strategic challenges, the UIC has to consider whether to put extra supports in to enable these principals to complete their doctorate in a timely manner. Otherwise, it becomes a type of structural racism that penalizes those that lead these schools. Lastly, the data defined in our dialogue that the professional development needs of UIC faculty and coaches needs to be specific to the needs of high-churn leaders in their schools. This would include supporting additional residents in these settings, entry planning, literacy learning, family and community engagement, and the development of social and emotional supports.